Hello, poppets. Welcome or welcome back to Trapped by Love. If you're new here, hi, my name is Emma Carrington. This is a true crime channel and we discuss cases of domestic abuse and domestic homicide here. So if that sounds like something that might interest you, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe because we'd love to have you join us. So how are we all? Are we having trial withdrawals? I'm so sorry. I have been trying to research any other case, but it has been futile. Talk of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial is everywhere. And I once again fell down the rabbit hole of recordings and prior depositions. So I wanted to try and make sense of it and thought I might as well take you guys along for the ride, if you're willing. I also want to address this because I have seen so many people who haven't done any research saying, but Johnny was convicted of hitting Amber, or he lost the case in the UK. It was proven that he was a wife beater. Yes, he lost the case in the UK, but that case was not a case of Johnny against Amber or vice versa regarding abuse. It was a libel case against the Sun. In the United Kingdom, the onus to prove the veracity of a printed claim is placed on the publisher. So that's who Johnny sued, along with the writer, Dan Wooten. The judge heard Amber's claims of abuse. She was a witness, not a defendant, as she is now, and the judge found that her statements seemed credible. He did not take any of the recordings of the two into account, where she clearly states that she started physical fights and that she has hit him because, and the judge is quoted to have said, she was not under oath at the time of the recordings. So there you go. Libel cases are very difficult to win, especially when you're a public figure. So there you have it. The judge was also found to have an affiliation with the Murdoch family, who own the Sun. That is, his son, the judge's son, works for Rupert Murdoch. So basically, it was found that he was biased. Well, depending on who you speak with. I'll leave it up to you to decide. So I will be discussing this trial and the evidence that is out there in the big wide interwebs. I'll run through my thoughts on the trial so far and add clips and pics to explain my thoughts as I go. Please understand these are just my opinions and my interpretation of the available evidence, so please make your own informed decisions about what's out there. I'm not here to convince you, I'm just stating what I see. Also, this may end up being more than one video. If so, I will be getting part 2 out in as snappy a fashion as possible. I have my mega pint. I don't drink red. So let's dive in. Okay, my number one big fat thought is, why in the world would Johnny bring this lawsuit if he had done half the stuff that she has said he's done? He's always been a private person, and as much as it hurt him, I believe he would have let things lie had she kept her mouth shut and quit being the face of DV. But when he realised she was never going to stop, he decided it was time to speak out and tell his side of things. I hope he wins this case, but I think that just having people know the full story and be able to make an educated decision about the situation was his main objective, and I think he's done a really good job. I'm a victim survivor of domestic abuse, and I am immersed in the DV world, covering these cases week in and week out. But even I didn't think to look below the surface. So I, for one, am very pleased that Johnny has brought this claim and pressed to have the trial televised, so everyone has the opportunity to see the truth. Let me cut to the chase. In my honest opinion, I do believe that she set out to snare him and take him for all that he had. It sounds far-fetched, but there have been women and men who have targeted people for less than a few penthouses and a private island. Okay, I know she didn't ask for the island, but you get my drift. So do I think she's been setting him up from the get-go? Yeah, I do. I think she's been collecting evidence or things she thought she could use as evidence just in case her initial plan of extortion didn't go her way, which it didn't. If you hadn't already worked out, I'm not as fence city as I was in my last video. I've done my research and, full disclosure, I'm fully and firmly in Johnny's camp. But again, I do encourage you to do your own research if you're still unsure. Johnny had had enough by the 21st of May when he went to collect some items from the penthouse. This is when Amber claims that he threw a phone at her, a claim he denies. He told her that he wanted a divorce. So Amber, being the eager beaver that she is, decided to beat him to the punch. Pun totally intended. And she filed first. She then set her plan into action. Step one in the plan was the extortion letter from her attorneys to his attorneys on the 24th, which reads as follows. In re marriage of Depp. Dear Mr. Bloom, please be advised that our firm has filed a petition for dissolution of marriage on behalf of Amber Depp. As you may be aware, your client Amber's husband, Johnny Depp, violently attacked and threatened Amber on Saturday night, May 21st, in their penthouse apartment located at 849 South Broadway. There are several witnesses to this particular incident, and there are photographs depicting the property damage Johnny caused, as well as the physical injuries he inflicted on Amber. Unfortunately, this is not the first incident of domestic violence perpetrated by Johnny against Amber. In fact, there have been 2 other incidents in the past 6 months. Although Amber is afraid of Johnny, she strongly insists that we do everything possible to keep this personal matter out of the media spotlight, which is why she's not yet sought a CLETS DB TRO, and why we did not arrange for Johnny to have been personally served at last night's movie premiere. That was Alice Through the Looking Glass. Isn't that sweet of her? She didn't serve him at premiere. Amber wishes to work quickly towards a private and amicable resolution of all matters, but she will need Johnny's immediate cooperation to do so. Immediate. To this end, please have Johnny promptly sign and return by Friday. Let me remind you, this is the 24th. She wants this back by Friday, the 27th, 2016. The enclosed notice and acknowledgement of receipt form FL 117 form, confirming service of the summons, petition, family law case cover sheet, and blank response. If the requested notice is not signed and the original executed form is not returned to me by the 27th, we will have no alternative but to arrange for Johnny to be personally served. In addition, we are requesting on Amber's behalf the following: appropriate pendente light support, which is spousal support, exclusive use and possession of the black Range Rover, the vehicle she's currently driving, with Johnny to continue to make all payments for any encumbrances thereon, exclusive use and possession of 849 South Broadway penthouses number 1, 3, and 5, with Johnny to continue to pay mortgage, utilities, etc. associated therewith, and a contribution towards her reasonable and necessary attorney's fees in the amount of $100,000 and $25,000 for forensic accounting costs, to be paid to my firm by the close of business, 5 p.m. on May the 27th, 2016. Again, 3 days from now. Further, I believe it would be beneficial for all in this case if this case was assigned to a private retired judicial officer for all purposes. My proposed list of private goes on to list some retired judicial officers, and then says the fees of the judicial officer can be paid with funds from the party's community estate. Kindly let me know of your earliest convenience if you or your client are agreeable to doing so, as well as which judicial officers are acceptable. Upon hearing from you, I will have my assistant obtain rates and availabilities. We are indeed hopeful that we can swiftly work out mutually acceptable short and long-term solutions outside of the public eye. Thank you. I look forward to your prompt follow-up and reply. Truly yours, Samantha Spector. 15 months They've been married 15 months. She wants 3 penthouses while he continues to pay for them. And her utilities. She wants him to pay for her lawyer and a forensic accountant. Hello, you don't have that much, love. You don't need a forensic accountant. Don't forget spousal support. And if we do it this way, then we can keep it quiet. Go jump. And she thought he'd just cave. But when Johnny didn't cave to her demands and filed his response on the 25th, asking the judge to deny spousal support, Amber pulled out all the stops and went to the courthouse for a restraining order. She did this with a mark on her face that had, by all accounts, not been visible in the 5 days in between the alleged incident and the courthouse parade. So that is step 2. On the 27th, filed for the TRO citing DV. Meanwhile, her parents were still texting Johnny, a strange thing for them to be doing if he was a vicious monster who beat their daughter. They continued reaching out and trying to get this relationship back on track. I won't go through the text between Johnny and Amber's mum. I will pop a link in the show notes for that Brian fella's channel, Incredibly Average, because he has covered them all and has done a fabulous job. I will say, though, that Paige, Amber's mum, did ask Johnny, actually more like begged Johnny, not to let Amber know they'd been texting or speaking, and he didn't, not until his phone records were subpoenaed for the UK trial. To me, it's the little things. This shows he's not only a man of his word, but that he has great integrity. I like when actions and words align. Anyway, I will move on to a guest column comic Doug Stanhope wrote for The Wrap on May 29th. I'll preface this with the fact that Amber's attorney says that the claim that Amber is blackmailing Johnny Depp is unequivocally false, but whatever. You guys are big people, decide for yourself. The column reads as follows. Johnny Depp is being blackmailed by Amber Heard. Here's how I know. It's almost 4 a.m. and I can't sleep, not even dozing off. Today, a friend of mine was pilloried in the press for domestic violence, coupled with a picture of his wife with a bruise. He was murdered on social media. I watched it happen, and I didn't say a fucking word, even though I knew it was bullshit. We'd watched it build like this since before they were married. We'd watched her manipulate and fuck with him for years. We didn't say a word. To each other, yes, but never to him. When your friend is in an awful, abusive relationship, man or woman, and you risk weighing in that their counterpart is a demon, you know the odds are they will jump right back into the fire and then dump you from their life for being honest. Most of us have been on one or both sides of this coin, choosing to be blinded or removing people who have clearer eyes that can guide you. The fact that Hollywood and the entertainment industry at large, society as a whole, turns a blind eye to domestic violence is abhorrent. But the tides have turned in such a way that the mere allegation that such a crime has occurred leaves the person accused as guilty without due process. My girlfriend, Bingo, and I have known Johnny Depp for a few years now. We've watched Amber Heard fuck with him at his weakest, or watched him at his weakest from being fucked with, for the entire time we've known him. And we didn't say shit, because he's Johnny Depp, and we didn't want to be thrown out of the circle for saying that the Emperor was being stripped of his clothes. It isn't my place to name people who agreed with us, but I couldn't name one person closely associated with him that didn't feel the same. But nobody said shit to his face. Bingo and I were at Johnny's house for most of that Saturday, until just before the alleged assault. We assumed initially that his dour mood was because of his mother's death the day before. But he opened up in the most vulnerable of ways, that it was not only his mother, but that Amber was now going to leave him, threatening to lie about him publicly in any and every possible duplicitous way if he didn't agree to her terms. Blackmail is what I would imagine other people might call it, including the manner in which he is now being vilified. We stopped not saying shit. Bingo and I, together and then separately, told him how much we were aware of this manipulative asshole, how his closest circle had all agreed on this since the day we met, and that we all feared that telling him outright might alienate us. Love makes you do funny things. I told him the truth, and I half expected to be asked to leave, but I wasn't seeing Johnny Depp. I saw a naked emperor, and we told him to get dressed. Other people came in and out during the afternoon, all verifying we'd been cowardly, saying things only behind his back for so long. He seemed dumbstruck that nobody had ever come clean about this, and he thanked everyone for being honest. He still pronounced his love for Amber, but was presciently aware that she was going to pull off some kind of ruse to fuck him over. He hadn't slept in days with anxiety. You'd call him paranoid if you didn't know better, but he knew better, and he was right. As he finally felt like he could sleep, we left him. From what we now read in the news, later that night the police were called to his house for a domestic dispute. Finding no criminal act had occurred and no signs of physical abuse, the police left. Everything Johnny had told us that she'd been threatening had actually come to be. It blew up in the news, raced through the internet like a plague, and blew up on Twitter like it was the McMartin child abuse scandal. People are swarming with torches on social media. I watched it all happen ahead of time, and I watched it come to fruition today. And I haven't been able to sleep again because I didn't say shit to defend him. Why? Because I felt like in defending him, I would just come across as a sycophant trying to attach myself to a sensationalized story in order to further my career. A latter-day Kato Kalin. And now, as the sun is coming up, I realize not saying shit to defend him is a far worse crime of ego. To leave a friend hanging so you don't look like a suck-up, I and the we that were there aren't suck-ups or apologists. We were witnesses. I didn't jump into the fray because I was weak. It was because I didn't want to look like a name dropper. I'll name drop now. Johnny Depp is my friend. But any one of my friends will tell you I always call them out on their bullshit. Abusing women is bullshit. Johnny doesn't abuse anyone. And he told me that day ahead of time that she'd pull some kind of shit like this. Johnny Depp got used, manipulated, set up, and made to look like an asshole. And he saw it coming and didn't or couldn't do anything to stop it. He may never talk to me again for saying it, but I'd never forgive myself for not coming to his defense out of fear or ego. I stand up for my friends, and I tell the fucking truth. Wish I had a friend like that. This heartfelt outpouring shows just how hard it is to be the people on the sidelines when someone you care for is being abused. It's tragic to watch them turn themselves inside out trying to please someone who can never be pleased, who will continue to move the goalposts so the victim is fighting a losing battle. My second argument, I know the first one went off on a bit of a tangent, but I'm back on track, I think. Johnny has been telling the same story since the beginning, while her story just keeps growing. If we compare his testimony in the UK to his time on the stand in Virginia, they are much the same. He's not added extra incidents or embellished anything for sympathy or effect. He's taken responsibility for his own shortcomings and how they may have impacted the relationship. No one's saying the man's a saint, least of all himself. But his account of the relationship is unwavering and consistent. Amber, on the other hand, I think she enjoyed the attention that her initial story got her, and she's now like a junkie, upping the ante to get that first high back. She just keeps adding to it. And if you watch the deposition for the UK trial and compare that to her time on the stand, well, all I can say is, if she's that sad and afraid 6 years after the fact, she needs a new therapist because she's going downhill. She definitely wasn't that hysterical. In August of 2016, months after she left him, in fact, she was downright aggressive, spiteful, and had an air of disdain about her, as though she were above all this that she started. Okay, I'm going to bring that in. I'll move on to what I consider anyone could conceive of being the only damning piece of video or audio of Johnny, which is when he was upset in his kitchen. Yes, breaking things and the like are generally considered physically abusive behaviours when used to intimidate within an argument. However, this video really only proved that she was obviously not too frightened to sneakily record him. And when Johnny found this recording device, his major reaction was to take it to another room, not break it, not delete the recording, not hit her, take it to another room and walk away. Her reaction was to follow this quote unquote abusive man, pick up the recording device, giggle, and follow him again. So I really don't think he was slamming things to intimidate her or threaten her. She jumped more in the courtroom rewatching the recording than she did on the day in the video. Again, she needs a new therapist or a better acting coach. Apart from this one video, all the other audio recordings are of her raging at him or badgering him in a circular argument until he snaps and raises his voice because she won't let him leave. I listened to 2 hours of audio and heard Johnny try to bring the discussion to a resolution at least twice when he could get a word in. And the minute he'd finished making his point, which was basically, we both need to try harder not to upset each other, let's do better, placating her, as well as taking ownership for his own part in things and trying to bring the whole matter to a close, she'd start back up again, either on the same thing or on some other grievance. On these recordings, she's admitted to starting physical fights. She has admitted to hitting him. In the tape after the Australia incident, she admits to causing the injury to his hand, saying, "I didn't mean to hurt him." This audio, I believe, cannot be played in court, though, and really it's only speculation on my part, but I do think it's because there are other people on the recording and they weren't aware that they were being recorded. That and the fact that Jerry Judge is on there and he is deceased, he's not able to speak for himself. So that's the only thing I can conclude as to why they're not bringing these in full. After these audio recordings started circulating in June of 2020, Amanda DeCadney, a friend and supporter of Amber's, who is also an activist linked intrinsically with the Me Too movement, pulled her support of Amber and released a statement saying that she, quote, felt used and misled. It read, quote, "I recently acknowledged that I will not be testifying in Johnny Depp's upcoming defamation case against The Sun. I also acknowledge that new facts have come to my attention which have changed my perspective on this matter. When the first audio tape was released and I heard Amber being verbally abusive to Johnny, I was horrified. I texted Robbie Kaplan, Amber's attorney, and let her know I needed to speak with her urgently. When we spoke, I told her I was appalled and shocked to hear how Amber was speaking to Johnny and that it was not okay with me. When I confronted Amber concerning the recording, she informed me it was edited by Johnny's team. I had hoped Amber would take accountability for her behaviour, but she did not. I have not spoken with Amber since this exchange and have come to the very painful realization that someone who I advocated for and believed so wholeheartedly was not entirely forthcoming with me. I want to emphasize that I have no further personal knowledge of what happened between Johnny and Amber and no knowledge of the truth of her accusations against him. I have made this statement in support of due process and upholding the truth. Amber seems to be surrounded by rats fleeing a sinking ship. On the other hand, Johnny has had the same staff for decades. Listen, I'm sure he's hard work at times, and he knows he's not perfect, but he is not a bad person because people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. He also has friends that date back to childhood. Yeah, we're looking at you, Isaac. Then we have Amber, who hasn't got the BFF that she had when this all started 6 years ago. Her assistant testified on Johnny's behalf, not hers. In fact, her prior assistant, Kate James, was the one to accuse Amber of twisting and using her traumatic sexual assault account as her own. Really? Nothing more needs to be said on that. Now, can we talk Dr. Curry? Dr. Curry, the woman is amazing. She's like a fortune teller, a soul gazer. She got up there and was able to speak eloquently and unbiasedly, even when explaining the disorders she diagnosed Amber with. She kept it gender neutral. She said things like, these people, a person who has, etc. This gave her a lot of credibility in my mind. But then to see Amber take the stand and prove everything Dr. Curry had said true, well, that was just beyond remarkable. Under the heading histrionic personality disorder, in the big book of medicine, there really needs to be a link to Amber's testimony. Dr. Curry saying that her diagnosis means Amber doesn't really know who she is. Like, she has no identity, so she sort of just morphs into whatever or whoever she's around, seems to have been shown time and again with the clone clothes and also with her testimony. It seems that she's behaving the way she thinks a victim should, but she really has nothing to draw from because she wasn't the victim. Johnny was the victim. He was the victim when she severed his finger, and he said that he, quote, didn't feel pain, he felt warmth.
And it made contact and shattered everywhere. And I honestly didn't feel the pain at first at all. I felt no pain whatsoever. What I felt was, I felt heat. I felt heat, and I felt as if something were dripping down my hand, you know.
So she seems to have adopted that, and she says that he slapped me 1, 2, 3 times hard. The third slap was hard enough, apparently, to knock her off the couch. But she says, I wish he'd said he was joking because it didn't hurt. It didn't physically hurt me.
And he slaps me one more time. Hard. I lose my balance. At this point, we're sitting next to each other on the edge of the couch, or I was on the edge of the couch. And I'm all of a sudden realizing that the worst thing has just happened to me that could possibly happen to you. I realized that I wish so much he had said he was joking. Because it didn't hurt. It didn't physically hurt me. I was just sitting there on this carpet, looking at the dirty carpet, wondering how I wound up on this carpet and why I never noticed that the carpet was so filthy before, and I just didn't know what else to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to react. I just sat there thinking, how much time do I have till I figure out what I need to do? Because, God, did he just hit me?
What? She goes on to tell of how he violated her with a glass bottle, but doesn't remember any pain. She just remembers being so heartbroken.
Did you bleed from the vagina as well?
I did.
And did you experience any pain later?
I wasn't thinking about that. I was heartbroken.
What the fuck? It sounds like my last period was more painful than this supposed attack. The way she was hyperventilating and hopping around in her chair, you'd think that she'd be able to describe some physical pain to go along with this theatrical display. But no, there were no tears and no recollection of pain. She also did not seek any medical attention, not even when 2 medical professionals came to the house that day. If you haven't listened to the recording of the aftermath of the finger severing, the link to that is also in the description box. But the general gist is that Dr. Kipper and nurse Debbie Lloyd came around to the house in Queensland. They were looking, along with Ben King, for the tip of Johnny's finger. They never say anything in regards to any injuries on Amber at all. Instead, they discuss sedating her. Nurse Debbie says Amber told her that she hadn't slept in weeks, and then she and Dr. Kipper are trying to organise sending her back home to LA. She can be heard wailing, saying, "Poor Johnny," and that she didn't mean to hurt him, that she loves him and she didn't do it on purpose, that she doesn't want to leave. She doesn't want to leave him, that she doesn't want to lose him, and on and on. It's a crack up. Dr. Kipper at one point says to Nurse Debbie, "How do you deal with that?" Because Amber is hysterical and blubbering. She's just in a state. It's worth a listen. But I can't honestly believe that two medical professionals would just ignore any cuts or bruises she may have had on her. Then we come to Amber's forensic psychologist, who was as biased as the day is long, and the day was long, listening to her. She was unable to say that she'd ever testified for a man being the victim in an IPV case. The only exception she had was a same-sex couple, so the perpetrator was still a man. She made a definite distinction with her pronouns. She equals victim, he equals abuser, and sat there with a straight face and said she could make determinations with minor limitations about a couple and their relationship, even if she's only speaking with one half of that couple, taking notes from only one side's doctors into account. Then she sat there basically testifying and telling Amber's story, which she could remember verbatim, but had to check her notes for the clinical tests she'd performed and the results. But hold the phone, her husband didn't buy anyone muffins, so she must be telling the truth. Just kidding. She was a joke, and I can't wait for them to bring Dr. Curry back for rebuttal. That is where I'm going to leave it today, my lovelies. But wait, before you go, please let me know what your favourite quote from the trial has been so far.
Oh no, I want to know.
Nails on a chalkboard. But I do. I'd like to know. I'd like to know your thoughts and your favourite quote. Also, there's a link in the description box or the show notes to your boy Gary on YouTube. He has a song called Amber Waves of Pain. I'll drop a link in the description box because, oh my gosh, I want it as my ringtone. It is absolutely fantastic. It's stuck in my head constantly. So I'm going to take my mega pint and I'm going to say that's all I have for you today. So until next time, please look after yourselves and be kind to one another. Bye.